Welcome to the Managing the Smart Mind podcast with your host, Coach Kramer. This is episode 79, Dr. Octopus on the multipotentialite movement. Hello, smart human. I am delighted to introduce to you Perry Knoppert, also known as Dr. Octopus. Now, it's pretty hard to pin Perry down. He is an artist. He has worked in conventional spheres, conventional industries. He's lived in China and Belgium, and he's been homeless. So many things. In addition to this, he has ADHD, dyslexia, a super fun brain, and he has founded something which I think you'll very much enjoy and want to join, the Octopus movement, a global network of non-linear thinkers. Now, the network has grown to, I think it's now almost 3,000 members from over 63 countries, and they're approaching problem solving in unconventional and creative ways, bringing unique creativity to entrepreneurship, the arts, other careers, all the things. And in this interview, which we've beautifully sort of allowed to evolve, we talk about so many things. Parenting neurodivergent kids and fighting the school system, having dyslexia, plants, poetry, drugs, art, not accepting the status quo, mushrooms, and the mycelium, and how to build a community, and interestingly, whether or not we should gatekeep it. We look at teacher torture, teaching nonlinear thinking in schools, and all the things that we would love to see differently in this world, and how we can be an agent for change. I hope you'll enjoy this interview with Dr. Octopus. Okay, so here is the man himself with the many arms, Dr. Octopus, Perry Knoppert. Welcome to the podcast. And I wanted to do this a little bit differently because I just said to you in our pre-chat, I don't think I need to kind of put you at ease, by doing a slow introduction. We could just dive in. So I'm going to start with asking, what is your biggest frustration? What makes you super mad?
Now, I'm not frozen. I was thinking, what makes me super mad?
And take your time. This is not
so many thoughts.
Just listen, take your time. People can wait. And I think I'm just going to say a thing while you're thinking. Silence is so underappreciated, and time for thinking.
There are two thoughts. There are things that makes me wonder why, for fuck's sake. Can I use that kind of language?
Yes, you can say fuck. I'm good.
Fuck, yeah. And the other thought is, I'm not mad. So it's so I understand your question, but I'm immediately thinking, not that I don't get angry, but it's a space that I'm almost never at. And what I do find interesting, fascinating, and that's the course of that's the direction where I'm at sometimes when I'm thinking, really is, and of course I'm going back to the boxed thinking, the linearity. I'm so amazed why people are not asking questions.
So you are, first of all, you switch from frustration, or maybe you don't even get to frustration. You go straight to curiosity, which is, I think, a superpower, which is what I teach so many of my clients. And then you go to the curiosity, why aren't they asking questions? About what? About all the things? About something specific?
Well, I'm wondering, I have this theory that we all have nonlinear brains, and then we go to school and then we get born. You're a little baby, you're very nonlinear, and then your parents are maybe very linear, and then the shit happens already. And then you're constrained in thoughts that creates your reality. And I find it fascinating that space in between what we think is reality is the real reality for me.
Yes. Oh my God. I can't
Because
believe we're here already. Do you know, like I am a philosopher, right? I have a degree in
yes,
philosophy.
yes,
So what is reality? Can we even know it? And how are we colored by, how is our experience of the world colored by our thinking? And what can we not see basically because of the way we're thinking? I love this.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that gets me frustrated sometimes, that people, it feels to me that they're like a goldfish in their little tank.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And then I see things, and I'm just getting curious. And I'm not saying that I'm doing everything right, but I have this movement, I have many people in the group, and they're all fascinating and nonlinear, weird and fantastic. And we look at the world also with, this is the normal world and we're the weirdos. And then we turn it around and then we say, wait a second.
Yeah.
Maybe
Who's
we're
weird?
normal and they're the weirdos, and removing ourselves out of that bubble or that fish tank or whatever. And I find it fascinating. So I used to be in that fish tank as well, and I could be very frustrated with myself and with others. But now being in this space where I see things in linear or non-linear fashion, it opened up a whole new universe
It's
for me,
pretty fun, right?
right? I was like, wait a second.
But
This is
this also
easy.
takes me to something I heard you say on a podcast, which really resonated with me, and I think with the people I work with, is that quote unquote your people, right? The non-linear thinkers, the octopi, whatever. What is your preferred term for them?
Octopi or octavists, but the correct
Octavists.
plural is octopuses. But octopuses sounds so. If you
Octopuses.
say
That's
octopuses,
hard, man.
octopuses,
Pissing
it's weird.
octopuses.
Octopi, I prefer octopi, but
Yeah.
people, language freaks, don't
Okay.
freak
I
out.
even took
You
Latin,
know,
but I would have seriously put money on it being octopi. Let's just
octopi sounds so much better. And we
engineer
call the
octopi.
people in the octopus movement octavists because we're
Ah,
like activists,
love it.
in fighting for cool things, innovation and change in a better world and everything without being boxed. So
Yes.
I like the octavists
Okay,
very
so the
much.
octavists, something you
Yeah.
said about them resonated with me, which was they care about so much more than just themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's the same with a lot of smart humans. I think there's a massive overlap, if not a complete overlap,
Mm-hmm.
with the octavists,
Yeah.
that they're like, can't you see what you're doing to the planet? Can't you see how horrible you're being to your employees? Can't you see that this is not going to end well? Right. Which is kind of, I'm going to do a podcast on this at some stage, the Cassandra syndrome, right? You see what's coming. You try to warn people, but they're like, nah, we're fine. Right. That kind of, that frustration. There is this goldfish and they have no idea that, the owner is going to go on holiday and the goldfish is going to end down the toilet, basically.
Well, I
The bigger
think
picture.
I think linearity is in chapter 11. I need to explain that. Chapter 11 is in the United States. When your company goes bankrupt, you go into chapter 11 first until you get killed. And chapter 11 is like, okay, stop. We wait, we stop. Clients don't pay. We're not buying any new things.
Yep.
We stop everything. We
We
sit
freeze
down,
all the assets.
freeze everything.
Yeah.
Sit down, take your accountants, your lawyers, your senior management. How are we going to solve this?
Yeah.
And for me, the linearity in the world is in chapter 11 with everything that's happening in the world, with AI as its biggest thing that's happening right now,
I also have a card for that.
Yeah, there's a card for that. And I think we need to look at the linearity of life. I think we need to dive into that. I think it's in chapter 11. I think we need to stop it. I just saw a post on LinkedIn and it got many, many, many likes, thousands of likes. And he's so right. This is a Dutch dude. I don't know. Someone reposted it. And he's in Spain and he's saying, I don't get it. The Dutch cucumbers that are here in the Spanish supermarket are cheaper than the cucumbers in the Netherlands.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense, right? And then someone's response was, well,
let me explain.
I know. Yeah. Not asking questions, just immediately, this is how it works with transportation and this and that, and then And I'm always wondering, what is happening? So many people are in difficulty in the Netherlands. If I look at the Netherlands, but all over the world.
Yeah, for sure.
In buying their groceries.
UK.
Food.
Massive crisis.
People. Yeah. Food. Massive. We're not talking about it. And the supermarkets have never made so much money as right now. And nobody is talking about it. It's insane. And that's the linearity, what I think is in chapter 11. We cannot just go on with shareholders' value and make more money and more money. People can't pay their bills anymore.
And the banks, right? Like massive, massive profit, ABN AMRO, like so many Dutch banks, insane profits, but they pay you like 0 interest on your savings. It is fascinating. Yeah, it is fascinating. And it's, that takes me to another topic, which is like systems and system thinking. And we're so stuck in those systems. And then someone, whenever you ask a question about the system, someone sort of raise their hand and says, let me explain to you how the system works.
How the system works, yeah.
Yes. So I can keep us all in the box because then we have this full sense of security. We think we can kind of predict what's going to happen. I thought COVID would cure us of that, but it obviously hasn't, right?
No.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, right? Yeah. Let me tell you how the system works. Oh, I now understand how the system works. Then it's fine.
Yeah, of course. That is not a problem, right? Now I know how the system works. I will just lie down and take
That's weird. I have 3 neurodiverse kids, right? One of them, my youngest one, has severe dyslexia, like me. That's fun. Reading and writing is a challenge. Will always be a challenge with me. You can't cure this, people. Okay. And then there is the system. And the system is school. And then the school is saying, she has to practice. And then they're giving advice without knowing what's really going on. And then I go back to them and I say, listen, is this the smartest thing to do? Does it really help my daughter, right? I don't know.
Is this actually helpful?
Perry, let me explain the system to you. Yeah. And I'm laughing.
Exactly.
I even had to go to court. So I went into the inner circle of the system.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you actually took the school to court?
Yeah. Oh, no. Complicated.
Okay, long story. You just give us a digest.
But my daughter was kicked out of school. She was in international school, had to go to the Dutch department because of her dyslexia. And she couldn't keep up. And school couldn't do anything to help her, which I found weird. And we just moved and everything was very busy, lots of things going on. So I said to the school, let's just wait and see what happens. Let's just surf the wave for the coming 2 years and then take a decision. Many people around me didn't agree with me, so I went to court, talked to the judge, to the head of the system, and the judge was amazing. The judge was absolutely fantastic. We had a conversation for an hour, and the judge said, I don't know what to do. I thought it was brilliant from a judge to say, I don't know what to do. And then finally she said, let's ask child services. So if we don't know what to do, we always can rely on the system. So she asked the system, child services, what do you think? And this 24-year-old just came fresh from college, no experience whatsoever, poor thing. And she said, well, if we look at this situation, then school really understands because that's the system.
They're the experts.
They're the expert. And dad is emotionally attached.
Right. He's not neutral. He's not neutral. See clearly.
right? So we need to follow the school's advice.
Yeah.
And then the judge said, okay, that's what we will do. And we can only look back at this a few years from now and then say, was this a good decision or not? Brilliant judge. Even though I lost, I was very happy because, she really put everything out there and not just, okay, this is the system, bam, within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
done.
go back into the system, shut up.
Yeah. Fascinating. You see, it's possible. And that's why I'm always saying I'm advocating for a new job in the world. It's the nonlinear manager. And that nonlinear manager should be everywhere, at school, at the government, at the company, saying, wait, let's shut down the system for a bit.
Yeah, and
and look
thinking.
at what's really happening. And let's ask some questions, and maybe we can help this person, project, situation, whatever, by disconnecting it from the system and look at it in a human way and enter that emptiness in between systems and thoughts and go there and say, but this is the healthy thing to do.
And maybe take in also some things that are ephemeral, like emotions, like how people feel, right?
Exactly.
Which is so hard to do in a system because it's so hard to quantify that you can't make any rules around it and you can't make any policy around it, but it's such a real thing. If everybody in your company or in your school feels miserable, or even if 20% feel miserable, and you're not able to take that into account in any way, you're just like, well, yeah, that's too bad. Then
that's how the system works.
Yes, that's how the system works. And you're just too different, or you're just too ... Which
and I get it. The bell curve is there for a reason. So for 80%, it's okay that the system works.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But what about these 20 to maybe now 30%?
Yes, I think that's another interesting thing, right? We always thought, okay, so neurodivergent people, maybe 20%, and the more and more of us are standing up and kind of coming out or discovering that maybe we're not a complete failure, we just have a different brain, right? I'm like, 20% is a very conservative estimate. It's going to be a lot more, but we've just not all of us, but so many of us have been hiding and working so hard to fit in at a very high cost to ourselves and our sanity and even our physical health, I think. And I think finally that is kind of coming apart, right? And people are like, oh, hang on, I'm not the only one. And I think that's one of the things I love about your movement, sort of validating that, yes, you're very different, but that doesn't mean you don't have a right to exist. And also there are very many other people like you. And there's a little
we find you extra fascinating, not because of superpowers. That's a little bit the linear approach to neurodiversity that sometimes I'm wondering if we need to do that. Oh, you have neurodiversity. Oh, you have superpowers. Everybody has.
Okay, no, listen, I am going to pause you there because I do want to talk about that. I think it's important because I have a lot to say about this too, and I have opinions.
Go for it.
I think, again, this is very what you call linear. I call it binary thinking, right? It's like either it's awful to have ADHD or it's a superpower and it's amazing. And I'm like, come on, people, keep real, right? Like, it's like parts of it suck. Sometimes I hate my brain. I'm like, sometimes I water my plants and I very cleverly keep the tap running while I feel the little thing I used to water them with, and then I go off and do something else. Well, guess what happens?
And the water's still running.
I flood my office. Right?
What the hell? Yeah.
Do I love this? No.
Is that a superpower?
No. Right. So it's such a binary way of thinking. It's not useful. It can be empowering to say, listen, we have things that suck and we have things that are amazing, right? Like superheroes. And it can be kind of a sort of shift of perspective or a reframe that can make us feel better if we were feeling awful about ourselves and only seeing the negative things, right? So it can be sort of the pendulum swings the other way and we adjust our way of thinking. But to view it only in like, oh, we're amazing, we're like the new superpowers. No, that's my...
And listen, if you have neurodiversity and you have some superpowers, you can be still an asshole. And it's not because...
Oh my God.
Right? So
100%.
It's weird to use one system to talk about the
Yeah.
other system.
Yes.
That's for me how it feels now.
It's a similar kind of oppression.
Where, everybody wants to be liked. Everybody
Yes.
wants to be seen. And then you're wired in a different way. So you're adjusting yourself, you're adjusting your own expectations, you're masking. And that's something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating. So I talk about neurodiversity in the Octopus movement, but it's not a diversity movement, because for me, that is too much boxed. Again, because so many
Right.
people could have a label of neurodiversity, but will never have that label because they never get tested, or they're not into that space, but they still belong there. But because they didn't do anything, they're not there. You see how complicated that becomes?
Yes.
I'm just thinking, we're all different. And then I also talked to some doctor one day, and I said, neurodiversity, can we dive into that word? I love language, and I think words are very linear as well. So neurodiversity in its linearity is contradictory in the word itself.
Yes.
Because it talks about diversity, but then in the world we say, wait a second, we're not talking about diversity here, we're talking about the bell curve. This is normal, and these are the fringes, and then it's diversity. But that doesn't make any sense, because we're talking about diversity, but we only call it diversity when it's a problem.
Exactly. Yep. But I think also, and another thing I'm noticing within the neurodiversity community, you get all the basically people putting their stake in the ground and saying, okay, this is autism. And if you say something even slightly different, right? If you say I have autism instead of I'm autistic, like there's whole wars being fought out.
Yeah, again, that's so linear. Oh, fucking hell.
I know. Yeah. And also it's so useless.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a waste. I mean, if we talk about frustration, that would be like one of mine, like fucking shut up and go do something useful. Okay.
And talking about autism.
Yes.
How weird that 80%, 90% of people with autism, or autistic people, I don't know how to call it, are not, or they don't have a job, or they're not working within their capacity. Yeah. And that illustrates so well the chapter 11 of linearity.
Yes.
Because I have so many awesome rock and roll people helping me in the movement that are capable of doing things that I find absolutely wonderful. And yes, they're on the scale. And yes, sometimes it needs a different approach.
Yeah.
But I have diverse thinking, so I don't care. I think everybody needs their own.
You don't feel threatened by it. You don't feel scared by it. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And there's not a system like this is how you should respond. This is how you should work. I'm working together with an investment organization, an investment studio in California. And the owner said to me in the beginning, and he said, Perry, what are the rules to get into the Octopus movement? And I thought it was so wonderful. And I said, there are no rules. There are no rules in the Octopus movement. And every time I go online and I see other movements or other communities, the first thing you always see is, these are the ground rules. Be gentle. Yes. Be
don't
nice.
Be a dick.
And I'm thinking, don't be a dick. And if that's one of your first rules to create something, don't be a dick, you're in the wrong playing field. Right?
You're obviously inviting dicks.
Yeah, because if I'm hosting a party in 2 days, it's my birthday. So I'm hosting a big party for my birthday. Not, but imagine.
Yeah.
And then at the front door, I'm inviting all my friends. Welcome to my house. I'm so happy you came. Please don't be a dick.
Please sign this form.
That's ridiculous.
I know, but again, this is control and fear-based. And that brings me to another, like the next card I pulled.
Another card, yes.
Yeah, I pulled this card, which is like perfect now. Community, right? So, because I heard you say something like, I don't like the idea of community so much because it's still part of a system.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about that.
I noticed something very interesting about myself with my dyslexia. So I find language, again, very linear. But I never went into that corner of my life because I was afraid to write and read and say anything about language, because the only thing I can do is make mistakes. I make stupid mistakes with my dyslexia. I have a form I have to fill in.
I would, by the way, I would take out the stupid, but that's a whole.
Well, that's the stupid mistake. If you're filling in a form and you're giving an answer that is not the answer to the actual question, but my brain translates that question into a complete different question, and I'm writing down, so I'm like, what is he writing down? Anyway, so I've always, until my age of 44, I always, walked away from language. Like the only thing I could do is make mistakes. Now I don't do that anymore. So I look at language and it does something to me. And the linearity of words, I find that very interesting. A glass is a glass, and that's fine.
Oh my God.
But
okay.
Then,
yeah, go ahead.
But then the word community. So I started the Octopus movement 2 years ago with 100 people, 100 weird, curious minds. Really wonderful. What a party this past 2 years already. And then someone said, oh, you're building a community, and something here, like there's something happening.
Constriction.
And I thought, what is this? And it feels wrong, the word community, not in general, but with me, what I'm creating. It doesn't fit. And then I was watching a documentary from Paul Stamets about fungi, mushrooms.
Yes.
So beautiful.
So cool.
So cool. And what to do with
blowing.
this mushroom hat. Yeah, it is so cool.
Yeah.
LSD on mushrooms. Anyway, and he was talking about the mycelium. That was the first time actually I heard the word mycelium. And they illustrated how it works. It's like this network of neurons, but then in the ground where all these plants and mushrooms and trees are communicating with each other, helping each other, sharing nutritions. I have a lot of plants in my house, and I'm now thinking, poor guys, they're in pots. They can't communicate with each other. Shit. So,
oh my God, I really feel this now. I have lots of plants here too.
Every time I look at them, I'm like, shit, I'm doing something. I need to. Anyway.
We'll solve this on another talk, right? We'll go solve this problem.
I need to solve that problem. I think they will do better if I have a huge pot with all the plants in it.
Okay,
anyway.
Listen, I am going to go there now for 1 second, because when I went on holiday, I have a ton of plants, and it gets very hot in my studio, and I put them all together, like really close to each other on a massive table. And I got back and it looked like they had the best time ever.
Of course. It's nature. These are living entities.
They were just so happy to be close to each other.
I saw mycelium and I thought, yes, that's what I'm creating. It's all these creative, weird, and curious minds in the Octopus movement are connected in some way with each other. And we have a special group. It's called the founding members. That's the inner core. It's like a family. And we're helping each other out. And it's more than just the average networking event, or you subscribe to something and you're a part of it. You can feel it. It's different. That's what people are saying in the Octopus movement. There's something else going on. And that's why I call it the mycelium. And a lot of linear thinkers are going nuts when I say that. And they're like, I don't understand the mycelium. Yeah, you need to be clear in your language. But for me, using mycelium is being clear in my language, because I think community is not working. But to please everyone, I put community on the website. And when you press community on the website, you get the explanation that it's for us considered to be a mycelium. Otherwise, they're thinking we're a mushroom farm, and we're not.
Well, that's the other thing. And because, I mean, you were saying language is so linear. I think language is actually so non-linear and fucking confusing, because it can be so ambiguous. It can be beautiful in poetry where you use the ambiguity, right? But sometimes language can really confuse people, and you need to be very specific, because otherwise people will think you are like,
but that's the linearity,
selling drugs.
Because they see a word, it's a yellow octopus, so it should be a yellow octopus.
Okay, so basically you're saying people's reaction to language.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's why poetry is so awesome, because it allows immediately, even if it's not what I like about poetry, if I just write down words, in a poetic way without the intention of poetry, the linear conception of reading these words becomes poetry, and something happens in your brain that allows the nonlinearity of language to go into your neocortex immediately. And so I'm not writing down this is poetry. Oh, switch the. No, it's just because they see the structure that's
Instantaneous.
different than normal. Then it switches the brain immediately. Oh, it's poetry, and then the nonlinearity opens up.
It's like all the gates go down, right? Like,
Cool, huh? That's why poetry is so fucking awesome. And then my son came home the other day. He's 15, and I said, "How was it at school today?" Yeah, he said, "Yeah, we're doing poetry at English. So annoying." I said, "But the poetry is so cool." And then I asked him about how they're doing poetry at school.
oh God.
Right? And I said to him, of course you hate poetry now, because it's very systematic. This is how you should make poetry. This is the structure of poetry. And I get it. You need to learn that there are structures in poetry. I'm fine with that. And then they were explaining a poem. This is what it means. And I was reading it with him.
Oh my God.
And I said to him, maybe they're absolutely wrong. Maybe the artist is meaning something completely different, and he's laughing his ass off. Yeah. That all these schools are learning this, but this is actually what's happening.
But this makes me very mad, right?
Yeah, really.
In fact, and the reason is that what are they doing? They are taking away kids' power to create meaning and to make their own decisions about meaning.
Yes.
And I've seen the same. I see that so much in the art world. I used to teach a lot of art classes, and people were terrified even to have an opinion about a work of art.
Yeah.
They were so worried to get it wrong. And I would have to say, like, listen, the moment you're in front of a work of art and you're interacting with it, you are its owner for now. And you get to fucking decide what it means.
Absolutely.
Right. And that is what we have to teach kids in school. Same with poetry. It's not like, oh, there is a right answer. And I think when you talk about bankruptcy, right, the whole bankruptcy of the system, I think the whole thing is that people think there is a right answer to things and that they're sort of terrified of getting it wrong, which again closes them in and they just can't think at all anymore. So
because when you're an art teacher,
school,
you dive into the nonlinearity of appreciating art, it becomes fascinating, and it allows the viewer of art to have a complete different interpretation whatsoever. And that's the intention of the artist. That's why now I call myself an artist, by the way. I used to be an entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur anymore. Same thing with the language. Yeah. Because I love the word art, because you can't explain it.
Exactly. You can't put it in a box.
No.
It's impossible.
It's impossible
to put it.
And there's not a certificate. This freaks me out as well. All the coaches in the world, cover your ears.
Okay.
But there's this scheme going on that everybody wants to be a coach. Then you get a certification and then you become a coach.
Or you don't and you become a coach. You can just put a label on the door.
Exactly. And I think it's more an art as well, coaching.
100%. Oh my God.
It's an art.
Yes.
So it's not enough just to do your certificate and then say, oh, I'm now a trauma coach.
Oh my, I don't even know where to begin with this. Like, I don't want to go on a rant here on like the whole coaching industry. There's so much wrong with it in so many ways, especially also in how it treats, again, neurodivergent people, right? Mm-hmm. So many neurodivergent people have very bad experiences with coaches who are like, what do you mean you have a hard time, managing your calendar? Just change your thinking or try harder. Or have you tried this tool? Like, to an ADHD person, what the hell, right? So yeah, we could go there, but let's not, right?
Yeah, that's a different.
Let's go to something completely different that I'm curious about. I'm always curious about with my guests. How does your physical environment influence the way you feel, and how are you trying to manage that, if at all?
I have a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I have a dog. That's the answer to everything. I
And
have a dog.
plants.
So, and plants.
Yep.
I'm always fascinated by some people who are saying, "Oh, I'm going to nature, so I'm getting into my car and I drive, and then I'm in nature and I enjoy nature." For me, nature is everywhere. Also, when I'm in my house and I look outside, we are in nature. So I don't have to have a house in nature because the house is in nature also when it's in the city, right? Um, but I do really, so it's very difficult. I used to live in Beijing,
Mm-hmm.
24 million people, 24 million Chinese around you. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. Taking the underground, you're packed with all these Chinese
Right, like
around
Tokyo,
you.
I'm sure.
I
Yeah.
loved it, right? A lot of, but on the other hand, when it's quiet and my ADHD brain can go nuts from a little sound from 3 houses down the roads because someone is blowing the leaves,
Yeah.
or it drives me nuts. I need to wear my headset. I
Yep.
need to listen to music. I don't want to hear it. So the embodiment with my brain and my nonlinear thinking does best when I'm in the forest out
Mm.
there, bare feet, outside, walking. So I go for an hour walk every day with my English Springer Spaniel. I prefer to do that in the forest and have a really long walk. If I'm not well means massive headaches. I've had a brain infection, severe one,
Mm-hmm.
9 years ago that changed my life. So I can have these massive headaches. I need to go outside. I need to be in the forest.
Yeah.
But also, when my brain is exploding and my meditation in between sentences is not working anymore, and I'm thinking to myself, Perry, you can stop thinking now. This
Yeah.
is getting too much. And I go into the forest. So yes, it is very important where I'm at. Um, but I also noticed that I don't need much.
Right. That's another. Okay, so I'm going to now pick a card in like intentionally because that's another one of my card is possessions.
Hmm.
What do you mean when you say I don't need that much?
3 years ago, I lost everything. It was a combination of losing everything and giving everything away because I was sick and tired of it.
Right. So it was partially intentional.
Yes. And it was fascinating. It was beautiful. It was liberating. Of course, we read these books, right? You have to remove the clutter out of your life, and
Yeah, Marie Kondo, all the
but
things.
Mary Kondo, yeah, yoo-hoo. Um, but what happens if you lose everything? That the only thing you have left is your dog and a plastic bag, and that's it. That's wonderful. That's really, really, really wonderful. Because all these things around us and what we think we don't need. And then we want to protect it. And then we want to maintain it. And then we find it important. And it's not. The only thing that's important is that you understand yourself and you become your best friend of yourself. And that the expectations are in a healthy way, and that you can be free. And you can't be free if you have these expectations of yourself and it's connected with materials
Yeah,
and
it's things.
possessions. And of course, buy a Rolls Royce if you can buy the Rolls Royce. Have fun with it. And I enjoy beautiful, nice things. Of course, I love it. But it's so not important.
Yeah. And I think what you experience is what actually so many people are looking for. They are looking for ultimate freedom, but they think they will be free once they have enough money, right? And they keep getting stuck more and more and stuck in a system that they hate. with this prize sort of at the end, they've got their eyes on the horizon thinking, okay, if I only get this extra promotion, then I'll be free. Or if I make my first million, then I'll be free. And then I can do what I want. And you can actually do what you want right now. You just have to be okay with the consequences, right?
You can, and recently someone asked me about manifestation, and I was thinking about that. How do I manifest things? How does it work for me? I was thinking about it for a long time, and then I discovered that my manifestation is very simple. It's just one sentence. It's there. And that's the end of it. Because if you look at that in a nonlinear perspective, where you look at the emptiness in between thoughts, and you consider manifestation as being just there, remove time, remove everything, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there anyway. And so it's not about it's there and how do I get there?
Exactly,
No.
because then already the assumption that you don't have it creeps in.
It's there. It's there.
But that is so hard to access for people, right? That's why all the books like The Secret and all the courses that teach you how to become amazing manifester. Again,
but I think I got there by losing everything.
Yes.
And being homeless for 7 months. And being disconnected even from my kids. That was horrible.
Yeah.
That's not a possession. But that's my lifeline. The kids mean everything to me, and I have a very strong connection.
How did you keep your sanity in that? I mean, when I just picture not being able to see my daughter, I think it'd be very hard to stay sane.
There was this weird sensation, feeling, thought that I knew I had to do this. Yeah, this sounds so ridiculous. This is, in retrospective, this is what people say when something like that happens. But when I was in the middle of it, and of course I had my moments of frustration, especially with my ex-wife who didn't understand me, who was making it even more difficult. But it teach me something very fascinating that I keep using every day in my life. The problem is not being homeless. The problem is how people deal with you when you're homeless. So the problem became a problem due to others, not by myself.
Basically, other people not being okay with you being homeless.
Exactly. So, and my thought constantly was, that's weird. I am in this place where it's not easy. I went to a government here in the Netherlands to register myself. They didn't want to register me because I was without a job, homeless. So they said, well, we didn't ask you to come back to the Netherlands, so piss off.
Yeah, you're not going to pay tax, are you?
Fuck you.
Yeah.
And that's weird, right? And I'm like, but if you help me, then okay. Anyway, so being in that place, then other people find it difficult. So the government had difficulty with me being in that place.
Yes, because they can put you in a box.
Right? And that's why I'm saying we need to create nonlinear managers saying, okay, this doesn't fit into the system, but let's do this and this, because in the long run, we're not only helping you, we're also helping ourselves. That is better for the bigger picture. But also with family and friends, they didn't understand me, what was going on. So they were judging me. This is ridiculous. You have
listen,
3 kids.
Humans are going to judge, and especially if you threaten their own system.
Yep.
Right. So once you threaten someone else's system, someone else's paradigm, well, 2 things can happen. They can become super curious and excited for you, or they can start to push back and be like, you're insane and you need to be fixed.
Yeah, and if you trigger their fear, then it's really difficult. And being homeless is, of course, you're in the fear chapter.
I think this is the biggest fear for so many people.
This is the biggest fear for so many people.
After death of a loved one,
I'm okay. It's okay. It's fine. And I even took my own decision to go there. That's weird. That's we don't want to talk to him, and don't bring him close to me, because I don't want to be there where he
Maybe it's
They're going to
contagious.
protect. Maybe it's contagious. Maybe it's age.
It could
It's
rub off.
so that was a very important life lesson. And that also has to do with neurodiversity and masking. You're weird in your brain, you do things differently. Look at, highly gifted, you're at school, you can learn faster than everyone else. What happens with the other kids? They're like, oh, he's scary.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want this. He's learning so much faster than me.
I
I
don't want
don't
to sit
like
next
that.
to him.
I don't want to sit next to him. How particular, how
So,
interesting.
okay. So this has happened, I think, to all the listeners on the podcast, or at least those of the listeners of the podcast who were identified as gifted in school. Not all of them were. They will have this experience of being kind of othered because their brain works so well, right? And I think this is a problem for a lot of very smart people, that so many other people feel very threatened by you. And then our reaction is to dumb down, become palatable, right? To create safety for other people, but it's in fact very unsafe for us. You pay a very high price. And I love what you're doing with the movement, which is kind of almost rebranding being different as being valuable instead of being threatening.
Yeah.
So do you want to speak a little to that?
Yeah, I teach at schools about nonlinear thinking as well, and I have a huge project coming up for kids.
I love that.
Because they have a job to do as well, the kids, and it's interesting for them as well to find ways to deal with the fact you're way smarter than the rest, or you can't sit still, or your focus is organized in a complete different way, or you have dyspraxia and your handwriting is worse than your family doctor. What do you do? And the problem in the system is that the system is not explaining to you what to do.
Yeah.
So if you're very lucky, you have an amazing teacher who helps you.
Yes.
To find your way. And everybody remembers one teacher at least who gets it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I wish all my teachers were like that. And I also do think, sidestep, that hardship is a good thing. So,
I agree.
I've lived in China. This is a Buddhist beat. There's no suffering. Suffering doesn't exist. Oh God, don't be angry with me, people. Let's see this in a nonlinear space. That suffering doesn't exist. Hardship does exist.
Pain
I think
exists.
pain exists, but I think the hardship, being different, also creates something very interesting. But it would be so cool not to go to that hardship for 44 years and then discover you're actually a beautiful person. And that's the issue I have. Yeah. Hardship is okay, and find your spot in our community, in our society, that's fine. But how cool would it be that as a child and you're at school and you're highly gifted, that you can find your way and you will have tools for yourself to talk to others, because the opposite is so difficult. I know so many stories where it totally goes wrong.
Yeah.
Where I know one story that highly gifted child, not in the family, not everybody understands the highly giftedness.
No.
And that makes it so difficult. So where does the child learns how to make something out of this life? And it disconnects completely. And it's not masking anymore because it became so big. So other things are happening that makes life so difficult. And you're wondering, is this person going to be fine?
Yeah.
And it's a waste, because as a humanity, this is a beautiful person who can help us, thrive.
Exactly. They can do amazing things. I mean, this is the whole basis of my work, right? This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I saw all these gifted people who are at home, sick, mad, right? All the things, not being able to contribute because of the way the school system treated them, because of the way society has perceived them. Oh, of course, there's some ownership for them as well, right? I think it cuts both ways, but it is such a massive waste on an incredible scale, right? It's a human tragedy, but it's also a global tragedy. And
you know
we need to
something,
change it.
Elsa, I met some, you know, it's easy to talk for us like this, like, la, 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 yeah, this is it, and we all know everything. But the reality of life is so complicated.
Yes.
Because sometimes I meet very linear people, and they're like, I don't get it. Why are you being so difficult? You know, and you're so smart. Why don't you just follow the system? You're smart enough. You know, you're highly gifted. So why are you not doing this? That's very complicated.
What is your answer when they say that? Like, I mean, there's so much to unpack here, right? So many assumptions and so many misconceptions.
I tell them about my own dyslexia because that's the easiest example. And then explaining to them at school how everything always goes wrong with all the subjects, because there's language in all the subjects. You have to write, history, science, doesn't matter. So you make stupid mistakes, again, you know, because it's not in line, which is what is actually there. And then you start thinking yourself that you're stupid.
Yes.
That you're dumb. And when you think about that of yourself, you're going to protect yourself. So you're going to be quiet, or you're going to do the things where you at least get some appreciation. But maybe that's not the thing you really want to do.
You start to play the system, but
right?
not in a fun way.
Yeah. And then I explain to people who don't have this in their lives, you know, who don't recognize this. And then I explain to them how it is to be not being seen and heard and for who you really are. And when you're always, like my son before he knew he had dyspraxia, his Dutch teacher in the international school was always using a red pen, you know, and then she would write down, improve your handwriting. Bang, huge, right?
Yeah.
It frustrated him so much. He came home crying so many times. He can't. If you're colorblind and your teacher is constantly saying, you're using the wrong color pen, asshole.
Yeah, that's basically abusive.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah. It's abusive. And I think people have no idea. It may seem very nice on the surface. And sometimes people say to me, listen, Elsa, look at you're doing amazing. You have this amazing studio to work from. You have a beautiful life. I'm like, yeah, I am 50. I can't even count the amount of depressions. I've been bullied at work continuously at school, right? All the things. So people have no idea what went before. They see like the end product where it's at right now. It's insane to be in a system that punishes you for who you are, right? And then of course, if a teacher makes you out to be weird, that's also a signal, or like a leader, a manager, that's a kind of signal to the rest of the pack to pick on you too.
Yep.
And I think so much confidence can be destroyed in children. That damage is just, it should be punishable, really, right? But let's just, instead of punish it, let's just change it. Let's change it.
And that's why I started the Octopus movement, just to create the awareness of the awesomeness of people that are wired a bit different in whatever way. That's it.
Exactly, right? And I think when we think about children, I think that also ties into what you were saying before about people being so worried about you being homeless. I think a lot of parents who aren't neurodivergent, who have neurodivergent kids, from a very well-meaning, loving space, try to kind of normalize their kids, right? Because they're like, if you're not normal, it's going to be so painful for you to be in the world. And please fit into this box. Please, please don't do the movements. If you move too much.
Is that really the case, or are they only talking about themselves?
Do you mean the parents?
Yeah.
I don't think this is a conscious thing, right? I think it's
no, of course not.
Right, but it's a subconscious thing.
But it's so easy also to say up loud to yourself when you have a conversation with yourself. Yeah, but I mean so well, and I want to protect my kids, so everything that I do is okay. Rather than,
you are assuming self-reflection, which would be really nice and dandy, but
nice and dandy, right. I like that. Yeah, but it's true, right? Yeah. This is the linearity of thinking as well. Like, oh, but this is important, needs to be successful, needs to be...
Exactly, needs to tick all the boxes, right?
Because that's how we're trained. That's how we need to do. Rather than, what do I feel? How do I see my child happy? Is it okay if they don't tick the boxes? Is it okay if they do things completely different? And I'm constantly saying to parents as well, can you imagine how the world looks like 10 years from now? No. Because if I listen to all the podcasts about everything that's changing in the world right now, we have no idea how it looks like in 10 years.
It'd be crazy.
So then I think as a parent, the only thing we need to do is not push and support our kids to be successful with all the boxes. I think what we need to do as parents is be very supportive and curious to our kids and allow them to be themselves, even though that is something you have never been to, but we're stuck in our thinking. Thinking is, we fire the same neurons every day, I think, and then we get the same response back. So we have this pinball machine in our brain going like this all the time. And then your child does something and goes into the pinball machine, and what's happening? And oh my God, now the ball goes to some other direction.
There's a pattern interrupt.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Allow it. And maybe as a parent, you can even grow by really listening and looking at your child. Yeah, he's fucking up his exams. Okay. What's really happening here?
Exactly. What's underneath? What does this child need? Right? Instead of how can we make the child fit the system?
I've met one more thing I want to say.
Okay, sure.
Which I thought was so interesting. Last year I met 1,178 people on Zoom for the Octopus move. I
love that you know the exact number. That's insane.
Yeah, I downloaded my data from Zoom. You can do that. Put it in an Excel sheet. I'm nerdy in that kind of way.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, this minute, 23,000 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
I've met so many people, of course, because I only talk to the weirdos. But from the weirdos, many of them became very successful at something where during high school or even university, the specialists, teachers, professors, were saying to them, if I were you, I wouldn't go this direction because it's never going to work. That's weird, Alison. Mm-hmm. I've met a writer who sold so many books, and his English professor said to him, if I were you, I wouldn't follow up on your writing because it's horrible. He's very successful now. People that are at high school, kids are at high school and get the news from their math professor. Math is a difficult thing, right? And then, oh, you suck at math. Don't use math. Don't go there. You're horrible at it. And then I meet people that later in life, after university, after everything, then all of a sudden, they're using math for their work or their company or their art or whatever, and they discover they're actually very good at it.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Wow. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe we need to surf the wave a little bit more as parents.
100%.
And allow our child to discover themselves where also I see that I ask kids, they're 9, 10 years old, and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, oh, I want to be a vet or a teacher or this or that. And then I said, you can do everything together as well. How cool is that? And then these 9-year-olds are saying to me, that's not possible. They're freaking 9
Oh,
years
wow.
old.
They're
And
already at 9. They're like, that's
yes,
not possible.
yes. And
Oh
I'm
my God.
48.
Wow.
Thursday I will be 48. And then they were talking to me. I'm wrong. A 9-year-old, no, Perry, that's not true. I said, trust me, it is true. But so in our society, it's so much focused, what you said earlier, to the horizon. There is where I want to go. And in order to get there, I need to do this, this, and this. But when you look at very successful, what you define successful, I don't know. But when you look at people with a very interesting story that seem very happy and very in balance and healthy for themselves, they discovered their own path and they combine many, 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 many things together. And then eventually they're somewhere where they need to be.
Yes. There's a
That's
sweet
it.
spot.
Right.
Exactly. And I think, and also that is constantly changing, right? So this whole concept of there's a thing and you will discover what your thing is, that is also mental.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, we're constantly evolving. I will be a completely different person tomorrow, but I'm kind of mad that way. Maybe like for other people next year. Yeah. So maybe next year I'll be doing completely different things, but all the things I've done before I carry with me. Right. It's not like, and that's the other concept. It's as if you can, oh, but you're throwing everything away. I've changed so many jobs and people say, you're throwing everything away. Everything you've built up, you're throwing it away. I'm like, that's
How
not even,
linear.
that's exactly. How can I
And
throw that away?
that's the beautiful possession. It's not about buying that designer table, because that's worthless in the end.
Yes.
You can sell it again at Marktplaats and then you get more money for it or whatever. I'm not talking about that. When I look into my life, the real possession, the real beauty of my life was traveling, meeting interesting people, and crying in front of Rothko for the first time I saw a painting that size in London. Those are the things that really matter. Not the Rolex, not the iPhone. I do have an iPhone. I love an iPhone. It's so cool what you can do on it. But the real sensation is traveling, meeting people, seeing art. That's beautiful possession rather than a designer table.
It's the way what I'm hearing is right, the sense of being fully alive versus creating safety through possession.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's
whatever that safety may be then. But yeah.
Yeah. And that's different for different people, for sure. Listen, I want to talk about drugs.
Oh, that's
and it, not in the way you think maybe, but this is my LSD card I just drew. The reason I want to talk about this is I heard you say on a podcast the way other people describe taking LSD, that's how my brain works. And that I'm like, oh my God, are you in my brain? Right. I often say this to people like who ask me, have you ever tried drugs? I'm like, are you kidding me? I am always on drugs. Right. I need to sometimes try and switch it off a little bit so I can get some work done. But I could trip on a flower for 4 hours, no problem. Right. So tell me, what is that like for you? I'm curious.
I've created a theory in my thinking regarding to drugs, because I was triggered indeed about LSD. I was watching a Netflix series on how the brain works, something like that, and the first episode was about LSD, and that was the scientist in Switzerland who discovered LSD, and he was explaining what happened in his brain, and that triggered me thinking, like you,
Yeah.
that's my
Dude.
day-to-day how
Yeah.
I see things. Fuck.
Join the club.
Jesus, how boring. Okay. And and I was looking at it more and more, and then I thought, maybe this is very black and white for me, but if you have forced, listen carefully, if you forced yourself into that linear world, then using LSD is a beautiful escape to let go of the linearity that you forced yourself into because of all the expectations of everyone, including your own. And you go back to your true self. I get that.
You go
The other
home,
thing,
right?
right?
You go home. You arrive home.
It removes everything you've learned at school.
Yeah.
And you see nature in a different way, and that's how LSD works, right? It makes new connections. It opens up pathways. We do that all the time by allowing us to dive into the emptiness of nonlinear thinking. So we create new pathways all the time. Can be freaking annoying if you're our partner.
I was gonna say, I mean, my husband and like we'd be
Oh
on a
God.
biking holiday, and I'd be like, "No, but wait, have you seen this flower?"
It's annoying. And Perry,
Sure.
really, yes, couldn't you mention this earlier as it just appeared? You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't
Or
planning on this.
even like a spot on the wall, right?
Yeah,
I could be like, "Oh my God, this cement is just so gorgeous," and I have to go touch it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. We're,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, okay. LSD. So if you force yourself with your neurotypical brain to be very linear, then an LSD trip can be very awakening. I think that you don't even have to use LSD to go there. I do even think I'm setting up an experience for people to be with me for 24 hours, and it's a nonlinear experience. It's not coaching, it's teaching, and I will teach about that empty space, one-on-one for 24 hours, and let's dive into that. And it feels to me that it's close to that LSD experience. And we can go there without LSD.
I
On
agree.
the other hand, if you're very nonlinear, like us, then cannabis is very interesting. I'm Dutch, and I was in a relationship with someone in Belgium, with an artist. And she said, "Oh, Perry, you have never used cannabis in your life, but you're Dutch." I said, "No, I don't do drugs. I don't need drugs. I'm,
It's a funny that assumption, right? That we're Dutch. We've obviously
yeah.
tried all the
Oh,
things and
no, never.
constantly jumped up. No, no, people.
She used everything.
Yeah.
Cocaine, heroin, LSD, the whole shebang. You know, I'm an artist, so I can use, that's also very linear. You know, I'm an artist, so anyway. So at one point I said, okay, let's do cannabis. I want to know what it is. I want to discover what it is. At least, see what happens. And I get it. I get it when you have ADHD. I get it. You take cannabis and it fucking quiets down the whole system in your head.
Right.
And everything feels so good. And time is gone.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm thinking, how can you go there without using cannabis? And for me, that's meditation. So I have cannabis meditation for myself, even in between sentences when I speak. I just did it. Go there immediately. Training for a very long time to go from here to here in a split second and shut down. And it's like using cannabis. And you forget about time. Your sensory is amazing. And it's possible with meditation and breathing techniques. And then using your brain to be on LSD and to say to yourself, also in meditation, okay, go ahead, fire it up. I'm ready to create any new pathway you can imagine. And I stimulate myself to even think more and more and more and faster and faster and faster. And I can listen to music. Music really helps in that way. And I use that also sometimes in our global think tanks. We have in the Octopus movement, global think tanks where we have people from all over the world. We come together and we brainstorm about a topic that is important, like rethinking intelligence is one of the latest white papers we did.
Ooh, interesting.
What is intelligence? You know, what are we talking about? And then you have people from all over the world, all different backgrounds, neurodiversity, craziness, upbringing, skills, religion, everything is there. And then I play weird music and it goes like ding, 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 very fast, very loud. And then in the beginning, people are like, "Perry, what are you doing?" But then after a few minutes, you see like 25 people on the digital whiteboard with Post-its. It's madness. But it's like everybody is on LSD. edits, and we're creating thoughts, and it doesn't matter what kind of thoughts they are. And we explode in our thinking and create something new. And we do this now also with sponsorships for the movement, where we do this global nonlinear think tanks to help organizations or governments or whatever. You have a problem. We're not just solving a problem, but we're putting your entity on LSD, and
love it.
and we give it to you, and you can read what is there, and that can trigger new pathways to come up with your own solution.
Yeah, so cool. And
Drugs.
this is, I have just done the most fascinating thing the past 6 months or so. I have certified in hypnotherapy, which is working with the subconscious, and it's a very similar thing. You can actually hypnotize yourself into tripping, right? And other people. It's just working with the brain and the subconscious part of the brain. And I think it's such a shame our society has been so dismissive of all of that and so scared, because there's this incredible reservoir of knowledge, of knowing, of creativity that we've barely scratched the surface. So I love that you're helping people access that. That is so cool. That is so cool.
And what I'm very proud of, I recently asked a group, said, what do you think of this think tank? And someone in the United States said, Julia, they said, I'm so happy you're asking me to help you to think about something, because I know I have interesting thoughts. Nobody is asking me to think with them. And
oh my God, yeah.
I'm here, and I can join the think tank whenever I want. It's once a month. And it allows me to go outside of the box, what I really enjoy, and think about not only for my neighbor in how to solve his problem in cleaning the barbecue, but solving a problem that is really big in the world. Yeah. Like how we can rethink intelligence, how we can look at intelligence in a different way, or whatever topic. We just did communication between the linear and non-linear minds. You know, how do we solve that?
That's a very good problem to solve, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And I love that you're doing this, because I think a very innate need of human beings is to contribute. I think when you look at, I mean, we know all the statistics of the people who retire and immediately die, right? Because they're no longer, they don't feel like they're contributing. Like, so all meaning goes out the window. And giving the people the possibility to contribute on their terms, which is what you're doing, right? Instead of saying, oh, you can contribute, but you have to become part of the system. You have to show up 9 to 5, then you can contribute. No, you're saying, hey, you can contribute, but you can come as you are. To me, that's almost sacred.
Yeah.
Right? You're inviting someone in, saying, give us your beauty, give us your, you know, your radiance, everything you bring. And we want it, and we want to see you, and we want to hear from you, but we don't ask you to do it in a certain way, to sign a form, right? And to be there at 9 a.m.
or pay for it and do this and do that. And we do 2 times 1 hour. And sometimes people come only for the first hour or the second hour. It's fine.
Right. And you don't get mad.
Life becomes so much nicer when you're able to say many times, it's fine.
It's not a problem.
It's not a problem. And at school, we learn that when we do an exam, we do like this, so nobody can watch what you're writing. You're not sharing. But in real life, it is about sharing. And then I do this where people can just show up for an hour, or do both or one. And then my thinking as well, because when we create the white paper, all the people that were in the think tank are on the white paper as well. So all their names are there, contributing into the white paper. And I was thinking, do I write down the names of the people who only showed up once instead of the full 2 hours? And then this is the fun that I have in life, that I'm immediately thinking, oh, Perry Howlin here, Jesus.
Right.
Of course, I write down there.
Like, someone can have one genius thought, like, for in 1 minute, and be there and say bye, and that will solve everybody's problem.
Of course, you're there.
And again, this is like, but Exactly. But this is so interesting. This is like the industrial age thinking, which like equates time spent with productivity, which is another like massive burden so many of us are carrying. Like I have been told I'm lazy so many times, but the way I think looks like I'm walking around my studio, touching things or, messing about with things. Stuff is happening in my head, or I'll even like take a nap, but I am working super hard in a way that isn't seen as work, right? Or I'm maybe painting or whatever it is, doing ideation. There is this weird conception, which I love that you're kind of dismantling, that again, work is linear, right? And
And that's why
production is
people are
linear.
very judgmental. Oh, you're lazy. That's very judgmental. Don't do
Yes.
that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Like I
your
think
life.
everybody with ADHD has been told that, right? Oh my God, you're
Exactly.
so undisciplined and so lazy. If only you would apply yourself more.
Be an artist. As an artist, everything is fine. You can be lazy. Lazy, fucking hell. Lazy is it's such a linear world. What does it mean, laziness? You have Rick Rubin. Do you know Rick Rubin?
I don't know.
He
I
is
only think in pictures. Is he the
he
monk?
is no, he's a producer and of hip hop. He's the
Okay, no, I
cool
don't know
dude,
him.
long beard, long hair. I wish I was him when I grow up. He's just so cool. And and he's going to that emptiness many
Yeah,
times. And he's also saying, I don't know what I'm doing. He
exactly.
produced the most brilliant albums in a very non-linear way. Just let's go there. And he is in his studio and he's walking there in his t-shirt without socks on, without shoes on, and he's just lying there on the couch listening and seeing what happens. And we have this image. That's how we're trained. If you're a producer, then this is how you work. When you're an accountant, then this is what you do.
Yeah.
When you're a teacher, this is what you do. This is what we wear. This is how we behave. So then we can label if someone is not doing that, that person is weird.
Yeah. Or you're out even.
Or when you're like me, always working, then, oh, you're a workaholic. No, I don't consider this as work. I'm an artist and I'm creating art. And I love doing that in my life. And there are no opening hours into creating art. I'm not having office hours.
Yeah.
This is what I'm
God.
doing.
This is what
That's
you're
it.
living, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You're breathing and living it. And I think when it comes to creating, I think for many of us who work in art or in a way like, our work is artful, it is like the growth is in doing less, right? And opening up the channel so something can come through you rather than you controlling, manipulating, right? Projecting shit onto the world. And that is the most beautiful
And
evolution,
isn't
I
that
think.
life? It's life, not art by itself. And even
Yes.
though you have a very linear job in an office, you can be still very artistic in how you see life, even though you go to the office every day, 5 days a week from 9 to 5, whatever. It doesn't mean that this is the space that you're at and that's the end of it. There is
100%.
that emptiness everywhere in between thoughts in what you do. And it's an art to create your life in how you want to live your life.
Okay, let's
Then,
talk about something super, or sorry, did you want to say?
no, go ahead.
Because we have to talk about something related to that, which I think is an objection many people have when we start talking about, just be yourself and follow your intuition and do the things. And they'll say, but money, but economy, but our world is structured and organized around doing a thing, getting a reward, then using that to feed yourself or get status or both. Right. And you always say, I'm not interested in money. I am fascinated by money, right? Like the role it plays, the games people play with it, how they use it and abuse it, but also how you can use it as a force for good. So how, give me your thoughts on money, first of all.
Money is fuel.
Right.
I've learned that from an investor, a billionaire. he has a lot of money, so I trust him in his opinion, you know. He said, Perry, money is fuel. And that for me made things different in a different perspective. So money allows you to move forward, to create energy like fuel does. But you have to put the fuel into something. If you just put the fuel on the ground, then it disappears and you can burn it, and that's it. So by creating something that works for you as a starting point and then add fuel to it, it becomes more. And I see too many people who have created something that without fuel, it's not possible. And I think it would be such an interesting exercise to see, okay, I create my life and my manifestation it's there, and you're there, and you put that in balance, and then fuel comes in, and you go even faster, and you can go further. So what does that mean? Very practical, then people say, yeah, but I need to pay all the bills, and I have my house, and stop.
Where's my bread?
Thinking about woo. We need to live.
Yeah, cat food, all the things.
I get it. So how much do you need to stay alive? Not that much. I've stayed alive for 3 years without getting any money from the government. I stayed alive with donations and help, my dear girlfriend and friends. My best friend is paying for my phone, used my mother's car. I get it. But you can be very creative to build something that is 100% you, without the condition, I can only be myself if I live in this house. So I think you need to create what is you, regardless of any conditions, because it's possible to be alive with just a tiny bit of money, really. And then that's your starting point. And then it grows, and then money comes in, and then it becomes real power and fuel, and it grows even bigger. So I think many people do it in the wrong order. They start with the fuel, and then based on the fuel, they decide what kind of car they get. I would suggest to start with the car and then put the fuel in later, but make sure the car has wheels, has a steering wheel, and an engine, because putting fuel in without an engine, it's not working. I've created the whole Octopus movement by myself without any investment. And I'm a global movement with more than 3,000 people in 65 countries. Zero investment.
It's amazing what is possible, right? It's insane.
And it's insane. But you need to disconnect yourself, not from the system, because I'm not here saying everybody should get out of the system.
Right, get off the grid, get your little hut.
No. That's also fake, right?
Yes.
Going off grid.
That's denial.
I'm going off grid and now everything is fine. No. It can be, but it doesn't work that way, because you're also still then off grid and you're there. You need to make sure it works for you. Remove all the noise, and that's the possession. Maybe you have a lot of noise around you. Maybe you need to remove that. Maybe you need to sell your house, go into a much smaller house where there's not that, oh my God, my mortgage, and if my husband stops working, then we're in deep trouble. Maybe you don't want to be there. And then who fucking cares how your house looks like? What are you doing? For your neighbors, for your family, to show your parents you're doing okay? I think you can do it in different ways.
So basically you're advocating finding that security in yourself rather than the things, and also kind of taking a leap of faith. Yeah, risking it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about relying, or I'm even using the word relying, maybe you would word it differently. I'm totally open to that. Relying on friends helping you. I'm guessing some people would say, but that would make me dependent, and I don't want to be dependent, which I think is another beautiful word to dive into.
Yeah, no, I get that. I understand. But it's, I started off with really just a tent and camping on a campsite, thanks to a friend. I was depending on one friend to be there. That's the end of it. Really go low.
But
And
also, I,
you survive everything. You
yeah,
stay alive. People, maybe we think too easily that we're going to die. We're not.
but I think also on the flip side of this is our trouble with receiving,
Hmm.
right? So are you able to receive help if people want to offer it? Are you able to receive money if people want to give it to you?
Yeah.
Or does your brain go, oh, but now I'll own them and I'll be like, it'll be scary. Sometimes the world just wants to give you things. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah. True.
So maybe you
And
are really good at receiving.
well, it's the manifesting for sure. And also, I also discovered something after being homeless or during homelessness is that I don't want to convince people anymore. That's a
Mm,
promise I made with myself. Being an entrepreneur, being not completely honest with myself, having expectations that were ridiculous of myself, I was convincing myself and others that I needed to be in a space where I was not. And that doesn't work. That creates a wrong vibration. And people listening to me, you know, I fucked up many times in my life because of this.
I think
Because
we all do. Yeah,
I convinced so many people and I was very good at it. It's wrong. But keep in mind that I was also convincing myself
yeah.
that I was doing a good job. And now, in my thinking, it's not only, oh boy, this is linear, or I go into the empty space in between linear thinking, but I also sometimes see something and I'm thinking, am I now trying to convince someone? I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's there. So when you're absolutely sure that everything is there, you don't have to convince
Yeah,
anyone because it means you're not aligned. And that alignment will come when it's there. And it's there anyway. So you don't have to convince anyone. And if
exactly.
someone totally disagrees with me, that's perfect
Yeah.
because there needs to be a balance. If everybody agrees with the octopus movement, we're nothing, right?
You've become meaningless.
Totally meaningless.
Yes,
So if someone who is very, very much in the linear space and even gets very annoyed by me, that's wonderful. That needs to be there because otherwise it's not working. Then it doesn't exist,
yeah. It's
right?
a yin and a yang kind of. You need the other to define you, the opposite.
Of course.
What are your future? Do you even live in the future, first of all? And if so, what are your future visions for the movement?
It's a difficult question. Um, I see the movement as an entity. So I don't see the movement as a non-profit, very systematic. I don't see it that way. So the movement is growing. It's very organic. Where does it go? I don't have a blueprint. I don't have a business plan. It just grows as it grows. And I love that. Where are we going? I don't know. But I do know that what I see is happening in the world right now, I do believe that we're going to be very busy in the near future. And I do believe that a lot of creative, interesting people that have very interesting brains are are going to enjoy this so much, especially, and there's yin and yang again, because of what's happening, and because of what's happening with AI, losing jobs, redefining things, understanding that thinking differently is going to be important in our lives. So I do think the Octopus movement is going to grow even further, and that's going to be interesting. And it's where does it go? I have no idea. I have really no idea.
I love how good you are at sitting in the not knowing.
Yeah.
If we talk about superpowers, I think that's definitely one.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the time. Do you have time for one more question, or do you need to go? Okay,
no,
because I would
I'm
love.
fine.
I have so many cards left. I mean, art, Chat GPT, magic.
Let's go fast through cards. We can
Let's
do
go
that.
fast. Okay, magic.
Let's go fast.
Talk to me about magic.
Magic?
Yep. What is magic, if anything? What does the word mean to you?
Magic. Nothing.
Okay, let's go to Chat GPT.
Interesting. That's my favorite linear assistant. Okay, let's go fast. It's the combination between a non-linear brain and a language model. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I can play with it. I can give it instructions. And then I say, do you understand? Don't write anything yet. Do you understand what I mean? Let's go there. Let's go there. Let's go there. And then combine everything. Now go. And then I see it and I'm thinking, wow, that's cool. And I tweak and do and use that. It's a wonderful assistant. Next.
Okay. Art and photography.
I'm a photographer. I love that. I love seeing things. So if you're an LSD and you see things around you and you're a photographer, I think the art of photography is that what you see, you can also bring that into a picture. I discovered a few years ago that that's not the case for everyone. I thought everyone had that. You see something and you're like, I want to frame that, and then it becomes a picture. Doesn't work that way. You need to be a photographer to, use the light and everything. I think photography is wonderful. One of my favorite things to do with photography is street photography. I'll walk the street, take my camera, take pictures of people that have no clue they're being photographed. And I take that split second of time where there is true beauty happening.
Spontaneity.
Everything comes together. And recently I saw something on TV that chickens prefer beautiful people.
What?
Yeah, weird. So the symmetry of faces, chickens prefer the symmetry of faces. Beauty. And then that's beauty, right? And but for me, the beauty is the beauty is for me when it's not beautiful. And when everything is aligned, then it becomes beautiful all of a sudden. I've made this. I need to show you this. Maybe this is a very strange angle for the camera, but okay, sorry. So I made this photo book in the time of Corona.
Can you bring it in a little bit closer? Yep. Perfect.
It's this tiny little book. I need to show, okay, this picture.
Yeah.
This one. That's graffiti on the wall, just a circle. And this was during the pandemic in Brussels. So that picture, this one, means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I can't describe it, but it's in a way beautiful. And it's very simple and elegant at the same time. So, someone sitting in the grass, this one.
Yes.
In the park.
Very solitary picture. I'm just describing it for the people listening. Yep. So what do you think is
I love photography.
And what about art? How or why does it matter?
What do you mean?
Is art important even?
I think our hands, I love the octopus, 8 arms. People are always sending me octopus pictures and everything octopus goes to Perry and suckers and whatnot. But these these hands of ours
Mm.
are like with the octopus. So I'm fascinated by the brain and everything that's happening there, but I think our hands are our intelligence, and that's
I
reflected by the art we make.
Yes.
So is art important? Oh my God, what a horrible question. It's it's everything.
And
It's everything.
I love that you're saying this, because part of something I'm kind of pushing or trying to talk about more in the coaching space and in the low space is I think everybody who just works with their head needs to also start making, if they're not
Mm.
already. And I don't care if they bake a bread, right, or pot a plant, or make, because I consider that a way of making art as well, right?
Yeah.
But I think as humans, that is so massively important to our well-being.
Yeah. And being inspired, go to a museum. But even better, museum, it's too linear. Go to an art exhibition of an art gallery. And go there even though you don't like the art that is
Yes,
there.
that's even better.
Go in. And so don't go to an art exhibition of Picasso that you already know, and then it feels so comfortable because now, oh yeah, I've seen, and then you take pictures, put it on Instagram, and look at me, I'm at the Picasso show. And no, go to an art gallery and just look at art, and you don't have to understand what it is. Please. You don't need to know the title. You don't need to read what's underneath the artwork. Forget about it. Look at it and see what happens inside. And it can it can open up new pathways. You can be inspired to have a different conversation with your manager the next day because you've seen an artwork.
100%.
Please go to an art gallery.
Look at art, people.
Look at
Amen.
art. And when you fall in love with that art piece that you saw at the art gallery, freaking buy it instead of that new Mercedes Benz. Buy the artwork, because then you can have that sensation every day when you're at home. You look at it and you're like, oh, so cool.
Who inspires you?
Yeah, that's a huge cliche to say this. Everyone, all the conversations that I'm having, and if I'm not doing like 7 Zoom calls a day, I get nervous. Like, where did everybody go? No, that's ridiculous. That's not really true. But there's so
Let
much
me rephrase it.
inspiration.
I'm going to rephrase it. Who do you want to share with us that you think deserves a wider audience?
Oh God.
So much responsibility. You can think about it and let me know, and I'll
Well,
put it
no,
in
no,
show
no.
notes.
I can share something very interesting. Haley in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful example. Haley was in the clubhouse room when I asked a bunch of multi-potentialites, what is a curious misfit? I'm looking for a symbol because I want to get away from the term multi-potentialite,
Yes.
polymath, scanner, highly gifted, neurodiversity, zebra in France,
Yeah.
scanner.
Yeah.
Jesus. I don't want to go there. I want to have one symbol and we're done. That's the octopus. Haley said to me after someone said, oh, I always send the octopus emoji, that triggered the octopus with us, and everybody's like, oh, octopus, cool. And she said, have you seen My Octopus Teacher? Octopus Teacher, documentary, Netflix,
Amazing.
South Africa,
Yeah.
filmmaker, fucking awesome. Watched it 5 times at least.
Same.
So she inspired me with My Octopus Teacher. Haley is in South Africa. Haley is a fashion designer. Haley creates clothing for plus size women.
Love it.
Haley takes pictures of flowers every day and put that on social media. Haley has all her customers on WhatsApp. So she connects with them on WhatsApp.
Sing.
She creates clothing for them, whatever they will. She creates the designs herself, the fabric. And she is not doing it for the money. She is, I don't know what it is. She is an artist, and she is a beautiful human being. She's happy, inspiring. She has this building with all her employees, creating beautiful clothing and making so many women so happy because they have a plus size and they're unsecure about their body, and she helps them. It's awesome. But then next to her is Robin in South Africa. He's a math professor, and now he's a full-time artist, and he makes murals in commission. He sent me 3 or 4 artworks just to give to me. So beautiful. But then yesterday I was talking about creating documentaries with Gabriel. Gabriel's from New York, lives now in the UK. And Gabriel has this amazing creative brain and does things that are so awesome. And I can continue like this for 2 hours.
I love it.
But then Barbara in Italy, and then Emmanuel in Paris.
So basically, everybody just needs to join.
Yeah,
this movement.
Yeah, I think
One
so.
final question: do you have any rituals or routines?
Yes.
Or is it, do you want to share them?
Yes, that's
okay. Here we go, people.
The uni ball, right? You know
okay, I just have to tell this backstory because when I met Perry. it was like first haven't even told this story, but someone else told me I should meet him and talk to him. She said there's this other guy talking about similar things. He's also Dutch, but he also has like an international audience, and you guys should totally meet. And then we met, and then I think you started saying, yeah, there's this one pen in the world I totally love, and I just lifted my pen. I was like, is it the Uniball?
And then we have all the different colors of the Uniball. I get now people, because you think, oh, pen, I get really upset when this thing is empty and I'm not able to get a new one within 5 minutes. So I have all these notebooks. So this is my other thing. I have moleskin notebooks, black, always the same size, always the same sticker of the octopus on it. And then every time I have a conversation, I write things down. So I'm showing this to the camera if you're just listening. And then it needs to be in this black pen, because otherwise it looks horrible if it has different colors. Yeah. It needs to be consistent. It needs to flow. So
it's very autistic, Barry.
Yes, I know. But that's okay. So moleskin pen, very important. I wear nail polish many times. That's also something. It does something with my brain if I wear nail polish. I haven't figured it out what it is.
Is it like war paint or something?
I don't know what it is.
Interesting.
Something happens.
Yeah.
And then there's a final thing that I always have. I've never shown this to anyone. So there's always a candle burning on my desk.
Oh my God. I love it.
And with Lord Shiva with it.
The dots.
And it's, for people who don't know Lord Shiva, look it up. He's crazy as fuck as well.
Yes.
And he's the god for all the fringes and all the people that are different. She is not he or she. She helps, he helps, it helps everyone. It's not boxed. So that's for me a symbol that I can relate to next to the octopus as well. So there's always a candle burning there. And that's it. I have a strong connection with India. I've never been there, but it feels fascinating. I have many people from India in the movement. That's and I wear this one already now for 13 years, every
Very
single
showing
day.
us, I think, is it a Buddhist chain? Is it a prayer chain or what? Bracelet? What is it?
This is for Buddhism, and it has a specific number of beads on it. I don't even know how many. And people use that for praying and whatnot.
Right.
I was in China. I moved to China. I came into Beijing. After first few weeks, I was at Yonggegong, which is a temple with a huge Buddha statue. Really, I don't know how it's huge. It's beautiful. It's in the middle of the center. There's incense everywhere. There's people praying, and I was there. I was like, oh my God, this feels so good. And I was sitting down in the sun, just watching people. And this Buddhist monk came and sat next to me, and he started talking to me in Chinese. Not a word of Chinese in the first week. So I was like, dude. I started talking to him in Dutch because it doesn't matter anyway. He was only Chinese and I'm Dutch, so let's communicate. Didn't work at all. And then he walked away and he made that gesture of stay there. So I was like, oh shit, what's happening? Okay, whatever. And he came back and he gave this to me.
Wow.
And he held my hands for a little while. And that's it. And he went away. I've never seen him back. So for the 3.5 years that I lived there, I've never seen him. And he gave this to me. So since that day, I'm wearing it every day. And I feel naked and weird if I'm not wearing it.
I'm just going to say another thing you were able to receive.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been a beautiful, meandering, non-linear interview. And we could talk for another 8 hours, I'm sure. Maybe we'll do that someday. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But for now, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Elsa. I really enjoyed it. And it was an interesting conversation. You surprised me many times. Like, what? Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome.